Done.
All right.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. I am joined this evening by two of my good friends, Jenny Mont and Bri Richter. Jenny is a music teacher, and Bri is a special education teacher. And I'm going to turn my volume down. I always turn my phone on so I can make sure that we are where I think we are. And it is working, so that's a good thing. We are having a lag with Jenny being able to hear me, so there will be a little bit of a time between when I ask her something and when she speaks. So first of all, thank you again, ladies, for joining me. And we're just going to talk tonight a little bit about what your lives have been like since we started this whole pandemic school remote learning. Uh-oh, you lost me again?
You're just really like patchy.
Okay.
Let me try this. I hope I don't lose my signal.
Okay. If you have to log out and log back in, we'll have Bria go first.
Okay.
Okay. So Bria, tell us about who you are, where you teach, but what you teach in the population of your school.
Am I frozen?
Okay. So my name is Bri Richter, and like Shelly said, and I teach special ed in a small rural community. The school is K-8. It's about 192 students total population K-8, and I teach K-8. And every year looks different for me. This year, I'm teaching 2nd grade reading, 6th grade reading, and 5th grade reading. And then in addition to that, it is 6th grade math.
So when you say you're teaching those, you have special education students. Are you co-teaching with the general education teacher?
No, those are the 4 classes that I actually teach on my own.
Okay.
I have about 7 students that I co-teach for with general ed teachers.
Oh, okay. All right. Jenny seems to have been frozen. I'm not sure what's going on with her. So she lives kind of out in the country. So maybe it's a internet problem that we're having, but hopefully she'll be able to join us and be unfrozen.
Give me my laptop.
Oh, yeah. I heard her that
this
time.
is kind of time about remote.
Yeah, it definitely does. That is very true. Jenny, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
Well, you just froze
I could
again.
try my laptop. I'm not sure. I'm on my phone, so
okay.
That might be some additional too.
Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, Sophie, sure. My name is Jenny Mont, and I am a music teacher for 7th grade. And then I also teach a choir, which is mixed of 7th and 8th grade. And then I have another select choir, which is also 7th and 8th grade. But I see my kids every day for a quarter. So a total of 9 weeks. And then they transfer to another quarter class. I only teach my actual class is 7th grade, and I'm at a junior high, kind of in a little bit bigger city. And we have 400 students total in the junior high. So I get to see all 200 students, with the exception of the band kids. So if they take band, they don't have general music.
Oh, okay. So Bria and I were saying that your internet situation is probably more typical than what educators would like to admit as far as remote learning. What have you all had to do in order to prepare? I mean, this was just kind of dumped on you both. Well, all teachers really. So what was going through your mind when you got the information, and what have you had to do to change up your teaching? Jenny, you want to go first?
Okay, sure. So when we first, knew that we weren't, that we were going to not see the kids for, 2 weeks at that time, we were like, oh, let's just get some stuff that they can do at home. So I kind of put together some packets that I don't normally do in my class and thought, oh, this will be fun stuff for them to do for 2 weeks. And then going into that second week, finding out that we were going to be longer, my class was kind of already online. I taught off of a PowerPoint already. So I had links for all my music and different things. So it was just a matter of me scanning in supplemental materials. And then, of course, spending hours and hours trying to find online stuff that would work with my supplemental materials. Because most of my stuff was like on papers, that I would hand out to the kids and say, hey, we're going to do this worksheet over this topic. And so when that provided, when that started happening and that wasn't like the best thing for me to always scan in, then I'd try scanning it in and using it with Google Docs, then scanning it in and using it with slides and trying to, do that. Well, that seemed to be just hard to do because it wasn't always working right. So then I would, again, start searching online for different avenues. Like I found, can I say places or? Like
so, I mean, okay. if they're online sites, that's fine.
Yeah. So like one of the places that I went was study.com. So I could go on there. It would give a similar lesson to what I would do in a nutshell. Normally I would spend 2 to 3 days over, let's say, the Beatles. I teach the history of rock music and the American music and popular music that came out of that. So I teach a lot of history and culture that surrounded a lot of the artists and things like that, and how important and powerful they were in our culture and in music history. We sometimes forget that. We want to teach about Bach and Beethoven, but there was a lot here in America. So I went on to study.com, found an article on the Beatles. Well, they just read that. I had a Zoom class where I kind of explained my PowerPoint and said, please go listen to this music. The problem is I can show them I can play my music in the Zoom class, but not like I can in class and explain it in class. So something that would normally take me 2 days and really have them listening to the music, I had a student submit 5 minutes later, which means that she didn't really actually listen to any of the music.
Right.
So you lose a little bit of your material there. And instead they're just like reading the lesson, taking the quiz, versus me really, even though I got to explain a lot of it in my Zoom class, I think there's a loss there, a disconnect, but it's just a lot of hours and hours of trying to find things that will go with your curriculum.
Right. Bria, do you want to speak to that? How has everything changed for you?
Sure. And so with special ed, I think the hardest thing that's been for me is that, and this was even prior to remote learning, is I am asking the students to do the thing that is absolutely hardest for them to do. So if I'm teaching them math, that means that's really, really hard for them, period. If I'm teaching them reading, it's because it's really, really hard for them to learn to read. So in addition to that hurdle that comes with even without remote learning, I'm trying to, so I've done all my classes that I actually teach. I have Zoom lessons, or I have Google Meet. We use Google Meet with our district. So we do Google Meet classes. So I am still getting the one-on-one or the small group teaching in. However, with the younger grades, so with my K through 4 students, so you schedule that meet, and I have it the same time every single day. But for those students that aren't proficient on technology and how to share the screen with me, how to click on this or that, depending on what website we're using that day, they really have to have almost another person with them. So I have to factor in the parent factor, if the parent is available, to otherwise it takes about 15 minutes, I feel like, to get my student where they need to be on the website we're using. And so, there's that, there's that factor too, with remote learning. You try to my main focus has been to just reinforce the skills that they had learned up until March 13th. It's really hard to introduce any kind of new skills this way, even with the live lessons. So say like with math, I use a lot of manipulatives with lessons in school. So I would use a lot of visuals and, different tools. And that's harder to do this way. I'm not going to say it's impossible, because it's not, but it's just harder. And to find the right tools to use for the right students is time consuming too. So really for me, what it's become is just reinforcing what they've learned this year, and hopefully they won't lose the skills they've learned this year, but really not expecting a lot of actual growth academically, just a maintenance, really.
Yeah.
If I just have one more to go off what she said, so because I am a quarter class, I think the whole class that I have would have been a lot different if I would have stayed in the third quarter. All of those students knew what I was teaching. They'd done analysis of songs. Mm-hmm. They had done a lot of, they understood why we were learning this. And what happened was right when this started was right when quarter 4 started. So I had a lot of kids, number one, not even realize that they were in my class, that things had changed. And then I had a whole group of 90 students from 2 different schools that didn't know who I even was.
Oh, wow.
They had maybe only seen me in the hall, maybe, if they came down near my music room. And like she said, the whole premise of this was, don't go crazy and try to teach them all these new concepts and things like this. Well, guess what? Mine was completely new to everybody. So I was actually teaching new things every single week, trying to teach them how to utilize different things in my classes and things like that. So that was a real struggle. And one of my schools is in a little bit lower economic area than my other one. And we had many, many, many students that did not have the ability to get online, the ability to listen. We didn't know if they were on a phone, a tablet, a laptop, or if they couldn't do it at all. Some kids were picking up paper packets and then not turning them back in for 5 weeks. So that is definitely, that's still going on right now. So that's still a struggle.
Mm-hmm. And that's,
I just will add to that. Oh, go ahead, Shelley.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so students that had already had an IEP in place, we offered them choices on how to do the remote learning. And so one of those choices was paper packets. And we've had students, families say, we don't have that great internet access, or we have none at all. And so we prefer the paper packets too. So, but then it becomes on the parents once again to get the packets back to the school. And some parents a lot of parents are still working, and their school's not open at the same time that they're home. And it's a lot of logistics. There's a lot of logistics involved with it. So providing live lessons and paper packets. I did have one parent that just said, we're going to just refuse services for the time. So they'll just do without special ed services. So that was an option too for our parents.
Yeah. And that leads into both of you into how often are you able to connect with your students? And if you had to and maybe you already know it, but if you had to give me a percentage of students that you either aren't able to connect with regularly or haven't connected with at all during this time, what would that number be? Bria, you want to go first?
Sure. So I have about 13 students total that I'm responsible for. I have 5 of them that I see regularly every day for either a half-hour lesson or an hour lesson. It just kind of depends on who they are and what it is that I'm teaching them. And then I have 2 students that I have had no contact with at all. They are parents that have requested paper packets, but we haven't, I'm not at the school, so I'm not there to talk to the parents when they put the stuff up, and I haven't had any contact with the student at all. And then kind of sporadically, or the remainder of the kids that kind of sporadically show up for my classes. They're there when they can be. They're not there when they can't be. And like I said, sometimes that falls on the parents not able to be there at that time, or what have you. So yeah.
Right. And Jenny, before we move on to you, I want to ask Bria. So the ones that we would consider resource, the ones that only come in sporadically, like you mentioned, how has your school dealt with you providing them services? Because for most of those kids, they probably would get their instruction from their general education teachers and then come to you for reinforcement or extra help in that regard. So are they kind of doing double duty, or do you know how that's working?
And so, yeah, so how that's working is, so I provided resource time for like 30 minutes a day for those students. And I still do that every day during my, we call it like our morning meet. So that's where we will take our attendance for the day, and they'll come in, they'll log into the Google Meet and go over homework for the day. So they'll all their Google Rooms and write down their homework for the day. I will conference with them on where to start. So what do you think is the easiest thing you could work on right now? And then every day at 10 o'clock, every one of the gen ed teachers has a Google Meet. And so then anybody can go to those meets to talk to the math teacher. If you had a question on math and maybe I couldn't help you with that, you needed to hear it right from the math teacher, you can go to that Google Meet at 10 o'clock. So from 10 to 10:30, all the teachers are available to help with students, like in like a big study hall kind of,
right.
Where they would. So, right. So I'm touching base with them every day on their work. And then if they need assistance, they stay with me. If they don't, they move on to independent work and then go to a 10 o'clock meet if they need to.
Okay. All right. So Jenny, do you remember the question?
No. I mean, I kind of do. How often do I get to meet the kids?
Yeah. Since this has started, have you had any kids that you haven't been able to connect with at all? And if you can, like if you had a percentage of...
I do.
Okay.
So when we first started, like I said, I think half the kids didn't even know that they were in my class. I have around 90, yeah. Maybe like 89. It differs because we've already had 2 kids move out of the district. So, but so out of those 2 schools, that's a combination of 90 kids. I Zoom with them 3 times a week. I was doing every day for a long time. And then at a staff meeting, we kind of had this realization, they don't have homework every day normally. We need to meet with them, but they don't normally have work every day, and everybody was giving them work every day.
Right.
So we kind of scaled back and said, okay, so we put together like a big Google sheet that said, okay, Mrs. Mount is going to meet with them Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 1. So-and-so is going to meet with them Tuesday, Thursday at 1, kind of thing like that. So I was meeting with the kids then, like I think after week 4, about 3 times a week. It did pop up. So I initially in my classes would have about 13 on average out of my 90.
Wow.
come to my Zoom class. That's not who was all doing my work, but that is who I was seeing actually in class. They were not mandated to have to be on those classes.
Right.
So, and again, because half of them didn't even know they were in my class, for one. For two, some of them are like, it's music, even though my class is counted towards their grade point average. It's not separated. It is all one. So it's still, and then after that 2 week, I kind of had a surge, and I had around 25 kids that would show up regularly for about 2-3 weeks. And then it dropped back down to 13. And unfortunately today during my Zoom class, nobody showed up. First time this whole time. And I think, the kids are kind of shutting down. But I have sent weekly emails saying, like, to the parents and the kids, here's the assignments in line, in order, highlighted, like everything. And every so often I'll get another kid that starts turning things in. I have made phone calls home to try to reach the kids. But if you really want a number, because I have to have this completed by Tuesday. So we are giving completes or incompletes. That's all they get. There is no grade. It's a completion or they have not completed. And I will be giving out 46 incompletes for students that I have not heard one assignment, not one Zoom, not one email, not a parent email. Like, I'm giving kids credit if their parents have emailed me, if they have remotely emailed me, even if they've done none of my work, but they've showed up for my Zoom class numerous times. I'm like giving them credit for that. I'm trying to give it credit in any way, but because there is not like a mandated check-in right now, they're just not doing it. It comes to be like 20 at one school and 26 at the other that I have not seen. So it's a little, maybe less than 50%.
Yeah.
And I think,
hopefully when we get some guidelines in the fall, when and if and when this happens, there will be guidelines where they have to check in and they have to meet every teacher, things like that. But right now, everybody was just kind of thrown, my principal said it the best, like he said, we're building the plane while we're flying it.
Right.
Yes,
I've heard that a lot.
We're doing all that we can. But yes, there's just a huge disconnect. No matter whether I call them, I email them, my principals will both call. And, some kids, we find out situations that have occurred. So then we can kind of let them go, per se, because they've had some serious issues happening. Right. But I would say out of that 46, that's only about 6 kids. So I'm still at 40, that we haven't heard from. With that being said, I have talked to their regular teachers and said, are they completing work for you? And nowhere in my 20 years of teaching would have ever thought I would say this, but I was like, are they doing work for you? Because if they're doing their core stuff, like, I'm glad. Like, as long as somebody's hearing from them and they are doing work somewhere, because it's the kids that none of us have heard from that you really start to worry about.
Right.
I was going to say too, Shelley, I think we really need to reevaluate and look at student motivation. If this is going to be something that we integrate in the fall, or whether we continue to do it this way. But I think student motivation needs to be kind of at the top of our priorities as educators now, because how are we going to motivate students to attend this way?
Well, and I said this in another staffing that we had, the big thing is, you know, we don't want to hurt them during this time or give them a bad grade during this time. And I understand that, but we're doing a disservice to them by not giving them guidelines and not giving them actual grades and things like that, because we're teaching them how to not deal with crisis well. You know, we need to deal with crisis and we need to like try to function within it, you know. So when I just hope that, you know, we do get better guidelines for these kids, you know, like you said, there has to be a motivation for them to want to do this.
Right. And I think that was an excellent point that you both touched on, because kids aren't motivated in the United States, at least, you know, they don't care about school like they do in other countries. You know, in other countries, it's still a privilege in many, many countries for kids to go to school. And here it's like, ugh, why do I have to do this? And I mean, so that's a very good point. And I hope that the legislators or whoever it is that will be giving those guidelines take that into consideration, because there is a lot of, like you said, Jenny, like we have to help them learn how to deal through a crisis. And in some aspects, I feel that this is doing that by not adding the extra pressure of school, that now they're just having to figure out, a lot of them, how to survive at home.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
I mean,
and
I get it. I get why it's happening now. But, you know, there's just this thing that, you know, there will have to be stricter guidelines in the fall, because otherwise these kids who we're not hearing from now in the fall, they're going to be like, well, I didn't do anything in the spring and I've still passed my grade.
Right.
So at some point now we say, okay, guys, we've been in this for months and months. And we're all, you know, getting used to this, but now we have to move forward.
Right.
Well, and I think we will shift a little bit in education. Just you know, rigor and academics are a huge part of education, but now we're really focusing a lot more on the social emotional because of what is going on, because of the pandemic, and so I think that's going to become a bigger part of what we do. In addition to the rigor of the academics, is going to be, how do we support our students through this socially and emotionally and keep them engaged with the curriculum.
Right. And, you know, we do something like that in my district, through our homeroom classes like twice a week. We do an entire curriculum just on emotional support, how to deal with stress, how to deal with anxiety, how to deal with bullying. Like, it's a full curriculum that we all do within our school. Now, how to integrate that into what we're doing now, you know, like you said, that, you know, that's going to be a huge thing that we are going to have to. Right now, we're not doing that at all. We're just doing the classes,
right?
You know, and we will have to go back to, like, hey guys, remember this program that we had? We need to start, you know, keep doing it.
Sure.
And I tried to do it with my homeroom, so I kept in touch. You know, I made a classroom just for my homeroom, and I tried to go through some of those things and ask some questions for the kids. But again, it's really hard because you don't have that connection with the person when you got the screen in front of you. Where I've had a kid completely open up to me about something very traumatic that probably wouldn't have happened online.
Right.
So, and your situation with the quarter class, I hadn't even thought about that with all of this stuff going on. That there are, you know, I mean, my daughter's in college, you know, and so we work on semesters. I didn't even think about that happens in grade school and high school. How has this affected both of you? Because you're both moms and you both have kids at home. Now, Jenny, I know you've got a junior or senior?
He's a junior.
Okay. And Bria, you've got a younger one, right?
Yeah. So I have a junior at home also. And then I have a 5-year-old.
Okay. So
who likes to jump in at any time into my lessons. And so So confidentiality on my end is broke all the time when when my son comes in.
Right? Yeah.
But you learn to laugh. I mean, I have learned that that's just going to happen, and my students now know my 5-year-old son, and my 17-year-old, of course, doesn't want anything to do with my classes, so no. But he adds an element of surprise sometimes, and lightheartedness and childlike to something that can be very stressful for my students. These classes like this can be stressful, and I just try to alleviate some of that for them. But yeah, it's been his bedtime has gotten later at night so that he sleeps in a little more so that I can have class in the morning with.
Okay.
So we've adjusted.
You do what you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how has it been? Because you're teaching, but then you also have to teach your son now. So how do you combine those two things?
Sure. So, well, when we tried like I think most people did, is to have a set time where we were going to sit down and do his work. And that kind of fell to the wayside because we were all just trying to transition and make it with everyone being home. My husband still was going to work. He's considered essential, so he was leaving every day and stuff. So now we just teachable moments, honestly. I just try to do the teachable moment with him, and we get as much done as we can. It's not so much scheduled. It's just when he sees an interest, we kind of all just hop on board, any of us in the house.
And so do you think that gives you more empathy for your students that you're teaching, knowing how chaotic and stressful it is at your house?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even my junior is, because this is so new too, for him, I mean, he's reached out and asked me to help, and how does he approach a teacher about something and wanting to know. So definitely more empathy for students and being at home and trying to learn this way. So yeah, I can see it through parent eyes and teacher eyes.
Right. And Jenny, your son's high school was set up already for e-learning. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
And
they
so
started about 6 years ago.
Okay.
For snow days. But, it worked a little bit different when it was a continuous thing.
Right.
And, I'm not quite sure. I have my own opinion on how they're doing it, which I'll just keep to myself. But yes, I mean, he knew how to do it. He knows he has to wake up every single morning at, if you can give me 1 second. Hey guys, I need you to be quiet. Walker. That's my 24-year-old. Just walked in the door. He didn't know I was doing this.
Oh.
Anyway, so he knows he's got to get up every single morning and he has to log in. Like it's different, definitely, than what my school does. He has to log into his classes every day.
Right.
And he's pretty good. I don't have to help him with homework, which is great, except for the fact that when you don't have to help them, you don't know if they're doing it.
Right.
Even though I can sit here and say, did you get it done? Oh, yeah, I got it done. Well, then you get an email saying from their teacher or their principal saying, well, your kid hasn't done this. So that's a little bit, and he'll say, well, it's, the thing is not giving due dates. So when they specifically don't give, they'll say it's due April 10th. But technically you have until the end of the semester to get it.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
in my kids' ears, that said, it's not due till the end of the year,
Right.
So that's a struggle for sure. But all of my kids have actually been home. They've all been home this whole time. So, they're doing their e-learning. My oldest was in his last semester of law school. He was supposed to be doing his graduation ceremony Saturday, which is not happening now. But
wow.
So his was a struggle of I'm teaching class, Harry's on class, Sophie's doing a voice lesson online. We're all trying to use internet. We're all trying to use devices. We're all trying to find spaces in the house. he would sometimes just go to my mom's, just so we'd have a quiet room for his class, you know. So he was used to that. You know, they do class meetings all the time. So I didn't necessarily have to help the older ones, you know, but it was just a struggle trying to, well, I got to have this. I have this. No, hey, I need a voice lesson. I need to be by the piano.
Right.
Like, so I think it was more of a struggle that way, trying to share the spaces and share the Wi-Fi and share device and, you know, so.
Right. Which then probably helped you develop empathy, because I've heard that from a lot of families too, is, you know, we have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 people needing the Wi-Fi or the internet connection, or, you know, needing to be on Zoom meetings, 3 of them at the same time, or, you know, whatever their situation is.
That happened to us a couple of times. So you just got to try to deal with it and say, guys, I'm sorry, I'm lagging. We have 3 of us on a meeting right now.
Yeah. Well, I told you both I would only keep you for a half an hour, and we've already gone over that a little bit. So if there's anything specifically that you want to say to anybody, or if you're fine continuing, we'll continue. But I just do want to ask you before you leave me, what advice, oh, there he is. What advice would you have to parents as the year is finishing now and over the summer? Do you have anything you would want to say to them, or any advice that you would give them?
Can you repeat that one more time, Shell?
Yeah.
What you're saying, advice for parents for what?
What advice? Yeah. As this school year is wrapping up, and then as the students are going into the summer months, I mean, I know as teachers, you know, we always recommended trying to maintain the skills over the summer months, but do you have a different recommendation this year because of what has happened? Jenny,
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Who's going?
Jenny.
Who's going to go? Oh, okay. I don't know. You know, the biggest thing for me is, and that I think even that I need to work on, you know, with my son, is, you know, keeping them on some type of schedule during this kind of, you know, if this goes back in the fall. We can't just be, hey, you guys need to get your homework done. Make sure you do it sometime today.
Right.
You know, I think it's pretty important. It's important for kids of all ages to, you know, sit down and go, I have to do this at this point in time. You know, so, and I'm not sure how that goes for parents who are going to be working, you know, because some of those kids watch their little brothers and sisters and things like that. But I definitely think it's, you know, maybe it needs to be from 5 to 10, that's your scheduled time, but having an actual thing. But they're trying to figure it out just as their teachers are. So they need to, you know, parents need to understand that as well. Not yell and scream because they're not getting stuff done, you know, but still keep, I guess, some stuff. But summer is going to be here, and they're going to be online on the fall. So I don't know, summer, like, hang out, man. That's me. But that's me. So, you know, I have to do that myself. I have to put things away and go, no, you know, which won't happen this summer because I will be going crazy trying to find digital stuff all summer. But normally I, you know, push it away. But yeah, that's really all for me. Yeah,
because now, I mean, even what you two will have to do, like you just said, Jenny, in preparation for next year. I mean, always in the summer, anyone who's ever followed me or listened to me knows that I'm a former teacher. So I'm very empathetic to my 2 friends here. And I know how much work teachers put in over the summer of a typical summer. Right. So even like I think you kind of alluded to it, that you're still going to be looking for stuff in case we are still remote learning in the fall. So that's going to change what your summer looks like even more so than normal.
Because I mean, and I don't know, maybe not every teacher is the same, but like for me, I like my stuff just streamlined so that this is the way I go, and it goes this way, and then I just have to tweak little bits here or change the way I'm teaching here if this kid doesn't get it. You know, I like to have things like ready to go.
Right.
And this was very unnerving because I had all my stuff. I've been teaching the same curriculum for years. And again, just adding bits and pieces and changing different things and coming up with an idea here, an idea here. And all of a sudden I was like, so that didn't work. I thought it was going to work. I thought I found this amazing thing and then it didn't work, so
yeah.
It's going to be a thing for me this summer to sit down and go, okay, what can I do during this part of this unit and this part, and and really try to have it so it is streamlined and the kids aren't going to be confused. Well, they will be, but maybe less confused. maybe less confused than I think I made some of them in the beginning. So
Yeah. So Bria, what would you say to parents? And then I'll let you guys get off of here.
Sure. I would say to parents and to students to, take it easy this summer. We all just made it through something that is unprecedented in history and has never happened to education. So I would say take a deep breath, relax, enjoy your summer. At the same time, as a teacher, I hope to have a better handle on how to effectively teach my students in August. So you guys can have a break. It's your turn to have a break. Our parents have been highly involved in what is going on with schooling. So have a break, and I'll have my 2-week break or whatever. But then I really hope that many teachers take that time to just get it together. We were just thrown into this.
Get it together. That's what it is. Just like figure it out,
Right. Right. We were just thrown into it. So we're just trying to get through to right now. Oh, Space Jam is over. So
I thought he was telling you that this was over and he wants your attention.
Well, he actually did learn to tell time over this because he knows at 12:30 that mommy is done teaching and has a break. And so he learned to tell time. So
it works. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining me. And for those of you who have been watching with us tonight, and for Fran, for your comments, I appreciate that. I think you ladies saw that at one point Fran mentioned it's a balancing act.
Yes.
And definitely is. My heart goes out to so many of the teachers out there because I know that you guys have been struggling, and I applaud you because what you have had to do, and you've all done it. I mean, I didn't hear any whining. It was just, this is what we have to do for our kids, because that's what we refer to them as, is our kids. Yeah. And all of you have stepped up, and I hope that during Teacher Appreciation Week earlier in the month that you were appreciated by your parents and staff that you work with, because I can't imagine what you guys are going through. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, ladies, for giving us your time tonight. And we will talk to you all some other time.
All right, thanks,
Michelle.
Bye.
Bye.